שלום וברוכים הבאים, כאן אוריאלה פז-מורין. אנחנו בשידור מיוחד מאוד, special for you, with Mr. Tim Kelly. It's a great honor for me to speak with you here. אני רוצה לספר לכם, just a moment, שאני השתתפתי בסמינר מיוחד של טים קלי פה בארץ בנושא הייעוד, וגיליתי מנטור בינלאומי ענק שעובד עם חברות, עם ארגונים, עם פוליטיקאים, ועוזר לאנשים יחידים ולחברות וארגונים למצוא את הייעוד שלהם. ואתם יודעים, זה נושא מאוד קרוב לליבי. אני יודעת שרבים מכם מתעסקים עם השאלה לגבי הייעוד, מה הייעוד שלכם, איך למצוא אותו, ועוד הרבה אתגרים במקום הזה. ולכן יש לי הכבוד והזכות והעונג לארח כאן את מר טים קלי. So, how shall we start?
I don't know. Start by saying toda rabba. Thank you for having me. Thank you for introducing me to your community.
Yeah. Thank you. So maybe we should start with a few words about yourself, about your ייעוד.
Yeah. Well, I can say different pieces of it in different ways. So, as you know, I treat the ייעוד as having the purpose as having different components. So one of them is my shlichut, my mission, is to unite heaven and earth. To unite heaven and earth. Big project.
Yeah, so we have same shlichut.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right.
Oh. I don't know how to say that. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
On the same team.
Yeah. Great. So I wrote a few questions in English. אתם יודעים, אני מאמנת פה את האנגלית שלי.
It's good practice for it.
What made you become a mentor and move to more spiritual way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I started out as a non-spiritual, atheistic, scientific, logical, mathematical computer guy. Didn't want to do any of that new age crap. So it was a long road. It was a long journey. So I was very happy in my little scientific universe. Everything made sense, and logic gave me all the answers I needed. And science explained everything, and then I started to have spiritual crises. Crisis of meaning. This is often a symptom that someone needs to find their purpose, is when their life isn't providing them with enough fulfillment and meaning. And being a smart, logical guy, I figured out that I could not logic my way into more meaning. At the time I was working at Oracle Corporation, I had gotten pretty high up in the organization, and I realized that getting higher wasn't going to make me happier.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a problem. I did not know what to do about that. And that was probably the second time in my life that I met all of my goals and didn't know what else to do. So I started taking workshops, and at first it was very difficult for me. I had to hold my nose. Oh my God, they keep talking about energy and chakras and past lives, and oh, I'm going to throw up. It was awful. It was horrible. I survived though, because I had a goal. I knew that I needed something that they had that I did not have, and I stuck with it, and I sat in the room, and I did the exercises, and eventually I realized that there was a whole other universe that I did not know anything about. It was like a parallel universe. It was the physical, logical, scientific one, which I still believe in and I'm very skilled with. It's a great universe. But there's this other spiritual dimension that's right next to it, equally valid, it has its own set of rules, and it's completely different from the other universe.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard meditation. It was by Louis Hay.
Mm-hmm.
After 3 minutes, I shut down the... I couldn't hear that. It was so slowly and, so much love. I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. It takes time, a little bit time to get in.
But I got determined, because I know how to learn. I got determined to learn about this other universe.
Mm-hmm.
But the question I was trying to answer, what is my purpose? How do I add more meaning to my life? even the spiritual people didn't have a good answer for that one. That really pissed me off. And it took me another 10 years before I was able to find my own purpose.
Wow.
And then figured out how I could help other people find their purpose. And I moved away from technology and became a spiritual teacher. Now, I'm not only a spiritual teacher because I also work in business. I work with government officials here in Israel, around the world. I work with CEOs, I work with corporations, helping them find their ya'ud, their purpose, and helping them become better agents of change, because I'm trying to create a new world.
Yeah, wow.
And if we want to create a new world, we need the politicians to help, we need the business leaders to help, we need the religious leaders to help, we need the military leaders to help, we need them all to help.
Revolution.
And just telling it, well, revolution, I don't like the word revolution, because that implies that there's somebody we're trying to overthrow. And I think that's a messy way to go about it.
Okay.
A better way to go about it is an evolution rather than a revolution.
Oh man, you're sorry.
No, it's fine. A lot of people agree. A lot of people feel like, oh, we have to throw the bastards out and tear down the corporations and destroy all the corrupt structures of society. And I'm like, wow, you know, if you think that's a good idea, you've never been in a destroyed society, have you? No buses, no electricity, no phones, no food. You know, good luck.
Is there any love way to do this evolution?
Yeah, of course. So it's funny because so many people who are called to change the world, I'm sure a lot of your audience is like this, they feel like, I have to help, I have to change the world. So many of them feel like they're coming from love, yet at the same time, there's a company or an organization or a leader that they know is evil and must be destroyed.
That's how
whether it's Trump or BB or Monsanto or the tobacco companies, the oil companies, whoever it is, right? The big corporations, the 1%, right? People have all the money. They're bad. Yeah. So we're all full of love except for them. Yeah. And that makes the process of change much slower. Because you have to love your enemies, as a famous rabbi once said, you know. So if you want something to change, you have to love it first. So think of it this way. Let's say I come to you and I say, I think you're awful. I think you're terrible, and I want to change you. It's all your fault, but I'm going to fix you.
Yeah.
Ready to sign up?
Immediately I say, yes, sure.
When do we begin? That sounds great.
I'm ready.
So this is how people approach different parts of society. They say to all the wealthy people, they say, everything that's wrong with society is all your fault. You screwed it all up. As soon as we can agree that everything is your fault, then we'll change you and fix you, and then everything will be right.
Yeah.
Why would I agree to that?
Of course.
It's a very bad strategy. So trying to figure out whose fault it is and get everyone to blame them is not a strategy for creating change.
Okay. Wow. So I have a feeling that when you can come again in March, maybe we shall do another video, because we have
so many topics
things to think about. So wow. We can speak about the individuals. How maybe we should start with it.
Let's assume that the folks who are listening are change agents, that they feel like, yes, I'm supposed to change the world.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm supposed to be having a bigger impact than I am. Right? I'm making this much change and I'm supposed to make this much change. Right? It's a very common feeling change agents have. So I have made a big project out of giving change agents tools for being able to create the change they're supposed to create, right? Because if all the change agents were doing their job and creating change, then the whole thing would all happen, right? The society would go to the next level. Yeah. So I think of us all as being on a project together, and I think of society as being software for humanity. It's sort of like an operating system, and it's time to upgrade the operating system. Yeah. Nothing's wrong. It's just the old version's a little buggy, and you know. We're ready for the new version. We're a little tired of the old one. It worked fine, but we're done with it. Yeah. So most change agents don't know exactly which change they're supposed to create, and they don't know how. Yeah. And for this I use the yehud, the purpose, to solve that problem. Because if you understand your purpose really, really well, it tells you exactly which change you're supposed to create, that's the shlichut, the mission,
right,
and how you're supposed to create it, which is the bracha, the blessing, right? So if you keep doing enough of this in the right way, it will cause this change. And now people know, oh, I see, now I go out and I transform this person and this person and this team and this company and this person, and if I do enough of that, then the world will change in the following way.
Okay, so...
But you have to get really clear and really specific about it. Most people's purpose statements are like, well, my purpose is to help people, or my purpose is to teach.
So many people say this,
and it's true, but it's like, it's not very specific.
So
Can't make a project.
How can we help all our tzofim, how you say it?
Community.
Okay, all our community to find their yehud, shlichut.
I wish we could do it right now. That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yes, in 5
so,
minutes, you know. Of course.
So the usual way people do it is they look back at their lives and they say, okay, when have I felt most passionate? When have I felt most aligned? When have I felt most fulfilled? Because I must have been doing my purpose when I was feeling that. And if I look at all the times I felt that, maybe it will tell me what my purpose is. Now, that works to an extent, but it usually produces a fairly vague purpose statement. Not the kind of precision that my mathematical mind wants. It will help people to know exactly how to change the world. For that, the way I do it is I connect them to something. Could be inside, could be outside, but some higher source of guidance that can tell them this is your purpose. Glad you asked, it's this. And you've seen me do this, right?
Yeah.
And
enjoyed very much.
Thank you.
Although I know my yehud and shlichut, but I was curious and I followed my intuition, and I think that's what brings us to this interview.
So for some people, it's a part of me that knows my purpose. It's my higher self, or my inner truth, or my heart, or my gut, or my intuition, or something like that. Something inside of me that knows more about my purpose than my conscious mind does. And for some people, it's external. It could be God, or the universe, or source, or spirit, or the force, or their dead grandmother, or their spirit guide, or their guardian angel. I really don't care. I really don't. As long as they think it might know their purpose. And if they think it might, then I can teach them to interview it and learn what their purpose is. Now, probably a bunch of your listeners already have some kind of connection with some sort of higher guidance. They already feel like, well, Tim, I get messages from my soul, or I have, intuition from my higher self, or something like that. The trick is that most people, the amount of information they get from their source is actually quite small. It's a little feeling, or a flash, or a word, or something like that. And I'm looking
dreams
for,
of mine. Yeah.
Dreams can be more information if you know how to interpret them. But I'm looking for long conversations in words while you're awake that tells you this is what you're meant to do, this is who you're meant to be, this is how you're meant to do it, and here's how to proceed for the greatest chances of success. And that's, long conversations. And most people, they have my computer background, small bandwidth connection, like dial-up. People old enough to remember dial-up.
We need wider internet channels.
Much better internet connection. We need more megabits per second between the conscious mind and the source. And once we get that, then we can get lots of information about the purpose. I have pages and pages and pages of information about my purpose instead of just a sentence. But the big problem is fear. The big problem is people are afraid of what their purpose will ask them to do, and that
to know
cuts the connection. Yeah, they don't
to know it and to do it.
They want to know, but they don't want to know. They want to do it, and they don't want to do it. And that conflict cuts the connection, and then they don't know. And it stays vague, and it stays unclear. It stays just a feeling or a few words, and then the upside of that is they don't have to act on it. They don't have to be responsible to it. But the downside is they don't get the benefit. They don't get the fulfillment. They don't get the ease and the flow. They don't get that sense that they're creating the change they're meant to create. and they don't get to see their impact, the world changing around them, and know that it's their creation taking shape around them. Boy, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, I think we both live this in our daily life, and that's the place that the miracles starts. Yeah.
That's right.
Does every person have one yehud, one purpose?
So there's debate about this. So one of two things is true, and it really depends on what you believe. Some people believe, and I used to believe this, some people believe that you're born with a purpose, right? That your soul chooses a purpose and then comes into this plane to take form and incarnate, manifest with that purpose. And that purpose is your purpose for your whole lifetime, and maybe beyond. The other possibility is that as we grow and evolve, so does our purpose also grow and evolve. Now, I don't think there's any way to prove whether it's one or the other, and so I invite people to believe whichever they want. But even if you believe you have one purpose for your whole lifetime and it never changes, it's definitely true that the first time you find it, you don't find everything about it.
Right.
There's only so much of it you're able to receive and understand. And then a year or two later, you need to check again and see how you're understanding. So maybe the purpose isn't changing, but your understanding of it is evolving and growing.
Yeah.
In the other case, your purpose is changing and growing and evolving. Either way, you have to keep it up to date. And usually that means checking it at least once a year to make sure it's still accurate.
Yeah. I can feel in my life that there is, I have to say, one main road, and then it's developed over the years.
Yeah. And I have people come into my workshop who know their purpose and have known it for 5 years or 10 years, but now they know it's starting to get a little old, it's starting to get a little stale, and they know there's a new one that's supposed to be coming in, and they're coming to me to help them update it to get the new one.
Yeah, oh, great.
Sort of like renovating a house.
So, are people in the business world open to those idea of yehud?
Mostly yes, but it depends. Let me tell you what it depends on. So, for one thing, people are people. So, all over the world, people are getting more and more interested in purpose. As society evolves more and more quickly, more and more people are seeing purpose as a way of keeping up, a way of making sense, a way of knowing which way to go in a confusing world. So the people who go to business also read books, watch TV, watch programs like this one, go to workshops, right? Now they may not talk about it at work, though.
Right.
So often there's a lot of people at work who are kind of spiritual, but they keep, they keep it in their desk drawer.
Right.
And so maybe you and I are sitting next to each other, and I don't want to tell you that I'm really a spiritual person because you might judge me, and you don't want to tell me that you're really a spiritual person because I might judge you, right?
This is the
mask.
Mask.
Yeah, that's right. So this happens a lot. The other thing that I've seen is that there are movements in business, and I've really participated in creating these, that are treating business as an institution that's evolving, that can contribute to global change, and that it's good for business for every for-profit company to have a yehud. So conscious capitalism would be an example of this.
Okay.
Right? And here's the thing, though, is that point of view is much more common in Europe and the United States than it is in Israel.
Really?
Israel's falling behind. So even though you guys are the startup nation, you're the big innovators, on this one you're lagging.
Although you do work with the organization in Israel.
That's right. But they're more scared of it, and I encounter more leaders whose point of view is it's just about the money. These people, they need to do their jobs. We're paying them to do their jobs. They should do their jobs. They need to motivate themselves. And I say, well, that's fine. You can say that, but your engagement numbers tell me that attitude's not really working. If you want them to care, if you want them to work hard, having a yehud for your business, a higher purpose, will give them a reason to come to work and work harder Because when they come to work, they know that all day long, while they're moving paper and doing stuff on the computer, they're creating a better world.
Wow. How do you help organizations to find their Yehud?
So usually what we do, and it depends on the size of the organization, but we take a subset of the people. We basically say to them, anyone who'd like, you can find your own Yehud, right? Mm-hmm. The company will pay, and you can come to a workshop, and you can find your purpose. Okay. Right? So that's the first step. Mm-hmm. And I always make the CEO do it. Has to. And then we say, okay, good. Now, those of you who wanted to, found your purpose, everybody who wants to can now come and help find the company's purpose. If you don't want to, stay at your desk. It's no problem. Everyone who wants to, come do it. Okay. And so I do the same thing. I connect them with a source inside of themselves or outside of themselves, whatever they believe in. But instead of asking about their own purpose, they ask about the company's purpose.
Wow, amazing.
And now we have 10 or 50 or 100 or 1,000 people's input about what their source said the company's purpose is. And we go through all the answers, and we find the really powerful ones, and we have people vote on which ones have the most impact. Wow. And you saw us do that with people's individual purpose. And then what happens is we get 2 or 3 or 4 sentences, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's so intense, that's so inspiring, it's so high. Can we do that? As a company,
the fear is like,
that's right, but it's totally fine, because as soon as they're arguing about whether it's possible or not, I know we've won. Yeah. Because if they didn't think it was the purpose, they wouldn't argue about whether it was possible.
It's very important point that when you find your organization Yehud, the feeling at the first time is fear.
Usually fear, not always. Yeah. It's excitement, passion, and fear, usually. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so if they can stay with it, and I help them with the fear and do all that, then they can use it to motivate the employees. They can use it to motivate customers, shareholders. They can get more investment. I've had startups triple their valuation using their purpose to hire people and to get money. So it's really, really good for business. They've studied it. Businesses that know their purpose, they go up much faster than purposes that don't. Companies that know their purpose than companies that don't. Really helps them with success.
Is it also happen that the individual don't find himself in the organization because his Yehud is something else? And
it can happen. So it's almost always possible to fulfill your purpose at work. You just have to find how to do it. And you can use your intuition to guide you and how to integrate your purpose into your job. But some people, a couple things happen. One is some people say, you know what, I see I can manifest my purpose at work, but I want to manifest it more fully, so I'd like to leave and do it somewhere else. Okay. And usually that's a small number, like 10% or less of the population.
Can you give an example of organizations in Israel that did this work with you and find
So some I can name, some I cannot. So I worked with an organization called Mentor's Channel, Jerome Lipstein. That company, they found the purpose of maybe 3/4 or half of the people in the organization, and then they found the organization's purpose. And in the next 3 years, they grew by 1,200%. Wow. And in revenue, and increased their size of their customer base even more. It was from like 4,500 to 2.5 million or something like that. Yeah. It's a huge increase after finding their purpose. I've worked with the CEO of Oracle Corporation. I've worked with Sherry Arison. I've worked with various different companies, startups, technical companies. Worked with the Haifa Chamber of Commerce. On the mission of the organization up there that was hosting. I've worked with nonprofits as well, and with banks, construction companies, water companies, a whole bunch of different organizations. Most of them, unfortunately, they don't want me to use their name because it's that simple.
Yeah, okay.
They're nervous.
Wow, so now we have to bring you to the Knesset, maybe we should find the Yehud of Israel.
I'm working with Knesset members. I'm working with several ex-ministers, a Knesset commissioner, I'm going to be starting with another Knesset member soon, I think. Anyway, so a lot of politicians are more frightened than business people, by the way. They're very nervous about it, so they almost never let me use their name.
Okay, I'm not asking.
But we have to transform government too. Right? I mean, people look at government and they're so frustrated, so frustrated. But the government's doing what it's designed to do, but what it's designed to do is not its purpose, and that's why people are frustrated. So, and I'm working on the purpose of Israel, and it's going very well. We've had about 7 or 8 groups meet so far. Each group is usually about 40 or 50 people, and every time they align 100% on the purpose of Israel, no matter who's in the room. We have settlers and Orthodox and secular liberal Tel Aviv people and military and rabbis, and every time 100% alignment. So,
wow. Great. If all people here in Israel will connect to the high Yehud of Israel, it will be Yemot Mashiach. You know?
Well, Israel's pulling apart. It's slowly tearing itself apart, and the Yehud can bring it together.
Right. So I know that you teach people how to connect to their Yehud, Shlichut, Bracha, message. Can you say a little bit about it?
Yeah, so we break the purpose down into 4 different components, 4 different aspects. So Yehud is very broad. So we say, okay, your Yehud has 4 parts. Mahut, your essence. Bracha, your blessing. Shlichut, your mission, and Meser, your message. So you are your essence. You give your blessing to other people when you do your purpose to them and transform them. You change the world with your shlichut, right? This is how the world will be different, and you spread your Meser, your message. So all of those, so Mahut plus Bracha plus Shlichut plus Meser equals Yehud.
Can you give us examples of
Sure.
Mahut, Shlichut?
So Mahut would be something like, could be I am love and compassion. It could be I am a deep pool of sacred water. It could be I am a shining lighthouse of truth. Usually it's poetic like that because it's being. This is what I am and what I radiate. Bracha, blessing, is usually, it's a transformation I do to people, so I connect people with the divinity within them. I heal people's wounds. I transform people into powerful agents of change. Different things like that. I connect people with their true selves. So it's a transformation I do to people. You can also do it to companies and countries and planets and stuff, but usually start with people. And then a shlichut would be create peace in the Middle East, end poverty, end violence against women, create a just world, reconnect humanity with nature. So it's a big mission, big change the world project. And the message would be something that you would, if you were, talking, I'm sure you give your message all the time. It would be something you would say or write if you were speaking or writing your purpose to an audience. So that could be something like, we are all one, could be a message. Or it is time for us to create heaven on earth, and we have the power to do so. That would be another example of a message.
Like you are standing on the stage.
Exactly. So on the stage, you get the microphone and you speak to the audience.
So you can connect to your souls to make a meditation and ask the questions about these 4 pillars, maybe.
Absolutely. And for most people, they won't get clear answers because of the fears. So
what can help them?
Well, if they have a technique for dealing with fear, like NLP or theta healing or
Omega
work or something like that they can use to identify and clear all their fears of finding their purpose, then they can connect to their source and ask these questions and get answers. It's tough to do on your own. Tough to, sort of like doing surgery on yourself. Trying to give yourself a back massage.
That's what I'm saying all the time. Wow. We share the same example.
Same source.
Yeah. Same group.
So if they have trouble, they can come to my workshop and I'll
yeah,
help them
of
out.
course. So next time when you come and do a workshop in Israel, I'll be glad to tell them.
Great.
Of course.
I'm sure they can.
So we have a few minutes. Maybe it's the time to ask you what is your message to the people and how you see your shlichut nowadays.
Yeah. So I'll talk about it in the context of Israel because your community is Israelis. Right?
Yes.
So I would say that here, so I'm creating heaven on earth generally, but I'm here because Israel has a role to play in creating heaven on earth. Israel, the country, is an agent of change. It is meant to model and teach certain things for the world. And it is not doing it right now.
Yes, we all know that. We're not doing our mission.
Not doing the mission.
Yeah.
But in many ways it hasn't been time, right? So
Yeah.
Israel's been dealing with other issues and other problems. The truth is now that Israel has things stabilized enough, things are settled enough. Now it's time for Israel to move its attention up Maslow's hierarchy of needs from safety. It's not that there's no danger, but Israel will not be able to find its way out of its problems if all it does is try to defend itself and defend itself and defend itself.
Right.
The purpose can show Israel a path from where it is now to a better place. And right now there is no path, there's no plan. The politicians have no idea what to do. They don't even like to talk about the issue with the Palestinians and all this because they don't have a solution. They just like to avoid it.
Wow.
And that's not good for the Israelis, it's not good for the Palestinians, and it's not good for the world. And so when Israel finds its purpose, the purpose can chart a path for Israel forward. How can Israel grow, evolve, become a better country, a better role model for the world, and do the healing and forgiveness work that it desperately needs to do so that it can fulfill its mission.
Do you have any idea, any guess about the...
Well, there's the old favorites like Ola Goim and
Ola Goim, but on the right way.
And, yeah, you got to watch about what you mean. But
that's right.
As a goal,
not ego.
Well, yes and no. So the Jews are the chosen people. What they're chosen for is they're chosen for a big mission. They're chosen for a big responsibility.
Right.
And if you start to think that, oh, we're chosen, then your ego starts to inflate, deflate, and you get into all kinds of trouble. But if you say, wow, we've been chosen, we have this big responsibility, we need to get busy, we got a lot of work to do, that doesn't upset people, that doesn't piss people off. People understand that some folks have more responsibility than others, right?
Right.
You know, a mother with 4 children has more responsibility than a 12-year-old boy, for example. Doesn't make her better or worse, she has more responsibility. Right. CEO of a company has a lot of responsibility. There are a lot of people depending on that person to make sure that everyone gets their paycheck and the products get delivered and all that. It's a lot of responsibility. An army general has a lot of responsibility. Doesn't make them better people.
Right.
It makes them more responsible.
So what the people that listen now, what they can do, in their small individual life?
Yeah. So to the extent you do know your purpose, you can pay attention to what it asks you to do in each situation. People forget that they can do their purpose in every conversation, every interaction, every decision. And your feelings and your intuition can tell you which path is the most purposeful, even if you don't know your purpose very well. You can feel, which feels more purposeful, going left or going right? Well, going right makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't generate a lot of passion in me. But going left makes me nervous, makes me sit up, makes me
excited.
Yeah, I get excited. And, okay, all right, maybe left is more purposeful. Now, I don't have to go left, but check.
Yeah.
Check and see.
And meditation for...
Absolutely. Calms the ego, makes it easier to hear the source.
To connect with yours.
Get it, try to chat with it so you can get a conversation.
Date with your soul.
Set a date with your soul. I love it. Sit down, have a conversation, have a chat, get some advice.
Yeah, right. Wow. And your mission, how you see your Yehud in for nowadays? Your Yehud.
Well, I talked about it. It's being here in Israel and finding Israel's higher purpose. That's the highest expression of my mission that I'm doing right now.
Wow. Mr. Tim Kelly, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It was very excited for me to meet you here and to share these ideas, very important one.
Great, thank you.
ותודה לכם, אהובים יקרים. אני מזמינה אתכם לקחת את הכלים שדיברנו עליהם כאן, למצוא לכם זמן של הוויה, זמן של מדיטציה, זמן של התחברות, זמן של הקשבה לאינטואיציה. נראה לי שאתה, I think that you understand me. וקדימה, לכו למצוא את הייעוד שלכם ולהגשים אותו, כי לכל אחד מאיתנו יש את השליחות שלו, יש את הייעוד, יש את המשהו המיוחד הזה שבאנו להגשים כאן בעולם, ויפה שעה אחת קודם. אז המון אהבה ממני. Thank you so much again.
תודה רבה.
תודה רבה, ולהשתמע בשידור הבא. ביי.